What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the real ending, the true ending, the final ending of Alan Wake 2. So it comes with the New Game Plus, and it is a doozy. It answers actually quite a few things, and it leaves me feeling also quite a few things. So look, I'm going to assume for the purposes of this discussion, this is more of a discussion video, want to theorize a little bit, want to talk about the future, want to talk about what happens in the ending. I'm going to, I guess, in a way, assume you've seen it. So if you haven't seen it, you can watch it. It's been floating around YouTube. From what I understand, I'm working my way through it. I'm going to be working my way through it as quickly as I possibly can. One thing that I have seen is there are obviously changes throughout the game. Nothing too major. Nothing. And you know what? If something does get found that maybe has a little bit more impact than previously believed, we'll talk about it. I'll definitely do another video. But this, the ending, very much changed, very much different, and this is what I want to, at least for this video, spend the time talking about, okay? So one thing I find cool is, yeah, a lot of it is changed, and it actually, and I actually played them side by side on one monitor, because I recorded my entire playthrough of Alan Wake 2, so I got it all, all the footage. So I played frame by frame the ending, of the base game, and then the secret, or, whatever you want to call it, the New Game Plus ending. And the only things that are actually changed is the lines from Alan, up until the point of him waking up, right? From that point on, a lot of things are different. But when it's, semi-close, when a lot of things are mirroring each other, Saga, it's, I guess, Scratch, taking over Casey, same stuff, exact same shots even, but Alan's lines are actually the ones that are different. And to my comparison, I think almost nothing is the same. He actually says almost completely different lines every single time he talks, even from the first time where Saga says, wake, and they're introducing themselves almost in person. He says, I got the script, it's done. Even from the very first words he says, it's different. So I really love that. I mean, obviously that changes things up quite a bit. And I love that it's, aware, and it should, considering, we're now in the lore of the game. He's aware that he's done this more than one time. He even talks about it. And one thing that this ending does that I actually believe, it is maybe the most straightforward thing of, the entire game. And I will say this. In that way, I'm actually, oh man, this is going to be tough. I'm slightly disappointed. I'm slightly disappointed by the ending for the simple fact that it's actually straightforward. Now, you could say, Alex, you're insane. And that's probably true. I am insane. That's why I need insane games and insane theories and insane things to happen in the games to keep me insane. If everything was just so simple, maybe this is why I don't ever want Kingdom Hearts to become easier to understand. If you become easy, if you just tell it how it is, which, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you do need to just look at us and say, here's what's happening, catch up, and so that, we don't confuse you. Sometimes you need that. But when it comes to the ending, especially of the base Alan Wake 2, it's like, what in God's name just happened? And how is this what's the DLC gonna do to this? Is there an Alan Wake 3? There has to be an Alan Wake 3. We have to figure out what happens to Saga's daughter. We have to figure out, does Alan get out of the dark place? Or how does Alan get out of the dark place? You're left with all these questions. And it's maybe not the most confused you've been throughout the entire game, but it's maybe one of the top 5, where you're, again, like, what in God's name just happened? This ending kind of directly answers several things. Everything works itself out. So I do have some questions, and it's why I'm slight disappointment. Because here's the thing. Although it kind of cuts right to the chase and solves things, there's still unanswered parts to all of this, okay? There's still unanswered parts, and there's still well, you have to have a third game, right? I'll also throw in, and I do mean this, I very much believe this ending exists. Not that they came up with it in the last 2 weeks. I feel like they did it just in case. Just in case you don't get an Alan Wake 3, which, let's be real, I want it almost more than anything, okay? If I were to make a list of games that I want to see happen, this would be on that list, okay? Be a top 10 thing. I need an Alan Wake 3. But if you don't get it, do you really want to leave people like how you left them with Alan Wake 1? What if it does truly take another 13 years? What if it takes 10 years? What if Sam Lake retires? He's 53. What if he retires before an Alan Wake 3? So why am I going on about this? The game has closure. It has the most closure we've ever gotten, in my belief, for Alan Wake. And that's almost why I'm disappointed, where it's like, wow, you went from the base ending being so open-ended, and you could talk about it for years, and you could speculate, okay, well, where does 3 go with this? Now you go to the New Game Plus ending, oh, it's over. For the most part. Again, I think they have built themselves a little wiggle room where you can go back and you can still do more things. But again, just in case you don't get an Alan Wake 3, I'm not saying they did it simply for that reason. Maybe they really felt this was the right time to do this stuff, but I have to believe that was kind of lingering in Sam Lake's mind, right? Where it's like, hey, if we don't get the chance to do it, if I retire, what if we just never can get the funding, whatever, maybe we should have some closure for this guy that's been stuck for over a decade, and the game literally reflects, the real life that Alan's been gone for a decade plus, right? So in that way, I do respect it. I am just kind of like, it's jarring because you go from so many questions to, oh, so Logan's alive. And that actually brings up another question. Well, what happened to the base ending where Alan said, like, sacrifices need to be made? Now, I guess it's possible that when he's talking about that, right, because he tells Saga over and over and over that, like, because they're the heroes, they need to have some sort of consequence. Like, it's very, again, almost meta in that way where, hey, this is a game or this is a story where heroes, they don't just get away with everything and just live perfectly happy lives. If you want something to go right, you have to almost counterbalance that things are going to go wrong. You're going to have to pay the price, and the price you pay is pretty extreme. Now, it's left open-ended originally, but the idea seems to be, in order to get rid of Scratch and kind of make things right, Alan's going to have to just sacrifice himself and keep going through the loop of the Dark Place. Whereas Saga's punishment, in order to kind of break free, but she has to have an anti of that, right? She loses her daughter. Maybe her daughter really is gone, okay? And that's left open-ended when the phone doesn't get picked up in the base game. Now, well, okay, well, everything works out. So is the punishment that they had to do it again? Because it's not a loop, it's a spiral. They had to do it basically one more time, right? So, like, he says we have to, we're going to have to suffer in a way. And then they go through it one more time. They do both, technically suffer quite a bit, and then they make it out. I guess that's your way out of that, conundrum, that mental conundrum. I don't know for sure, though. Like, it is possible that maybe something else happens there where they have to sacrifice something else. I just don't want to leave that plot point because I don't know if it's a plot point, like, meant to be left or if it's still kind of hanging over. One plot point, though, that I think is for certain not over, and I'm very confused. What about Mr. Door? So Mr. Door's last talk with Alan was pretty ominous, I love that freaking scene. That's a phenomenal, one of the better scenes in the game, where he's very serious, he's very direct, he's very angry. That's one of your bigger connection kind of points, right? That very likely Saga is his daughter. But he says something very specific, right? He talks about the next time they meet each other. The next time they meet each other, like, you're not going to like it. Now, technically, the next time they meet each other would have been back, like, repeated. So the first time they did, like, the interview in towards the beginning of the game, like the first couple chapters of Alan. There's no way that's what he meant. And that's the conundrum that I don't want to let go of, right? I believe there's something more to that. There's definitely something more to that. I can't believe he means, hey, the next time we meet, like, it's not going to go well. I mean, he threatens the guy. He threatens Alan, right? There's no way he meant, well, the next time we meet, we're going to go back to you being confused and me faking an interview, me pretending to be who you want me to be for this late night show, and I'm going to interview you about your book. There's no way that's what he meant. Though technically, in order, that is the next time they meet, but I almost feel, but time moves weird in the dark. Like Alan says that, right? Things you write can be, impact things after, can impact things before. You just don't know. So, like, I feel like there's a future meeting with Mr. Door where something very, very bad happens, and we haven't seen that. And that's what I would like to believe. And I guess there's one final point, too, in terms of, and what are these points? They're, if you want to leave it here, you probably could get away with it, especially with, like, most of the audience. Very few of us actually care about, and I mean, that's the sad thing, right? We are a dedicated group, we are a knowledgeable group, but we're very few. Like, if they leave it where they left it with this true ending, I think most people wouldn't even have questions. They would just kind of accept it, right? Because it's a very straightforward thing. Alan gets rid of Mr. Scratch. He's fine. He's back to life. Saga gets the daughter. Okay, they can leave. And, like, literally nothing, that's fine. I almost think that's too good. That's that's almost too easy, which actually Alan says the first time, right? Is it too easy? I don't know. Is it, Alan? Is it? But no, the last point would be, what about Alice? So, he thanks her, thank you, my love, in this one, in the true ending, for, it was her actions that got Alan to that point. If she didn't do what she did, then he wouldn't have figured out the whole loop being a spiral, right? So he goes through it again, and he gets out, and he thanks her, but, it's actually ironic because he's back to being free, and she's back to being in the dark place. Nothing, in terms of, like, the large majority of the first game, nothing really changes there. So that's kind of a bad deal. Is that his sacrifice, by the way, that Alice, can't come back? I'd like to believe, again, if there is a third game, it would almost, this could be cliche or this could just be outright dumb, but it's at least the first thing that popped in my head, like a rescue mission of sort. Look, like the dark place is still around, right? Like, that's still there. Mr. Scratch is technically gone, maybe. There's always a way for him to come back, I imagine. But Alice is trapped again. So it's like, is the third game this final act where Alan is he's gonna not, he needs to come out alive. He wants that, but he also wants to bring Alice out with him, right? But also, like, you can't just leave her there, right? And also the Anderson brothers, they walked themselves back into that, but they're there too. But specifically Alice, obviously that's a pretty big, deal and plot point, right? You can't leave her there, can you? I don't think you can, but maybe, again, if you never get an Alan Wake 3, maybe that's how it goes. So that's another one. I guess, if you want to keep going, I thought of one more. We'll just quickly rifle through it. What about freaking Thomas Zane? So this is another very deep cut one where, you beat the game and you're not really thinking about it. But just everything that happens with Thomas Zane in Alan Wake 2 is a mystery, and it's confusing, and I don't really have the answers. But that's actually it right there, right? Make a third game. Let's get a little bit more freaking information about this guy. Let's figure him out. Let's figure out who he truly is. Let's figure out if Alan really is him or, whatever Sam Lake wants it to be. Let's find that out because we are left, I believe, way more confused by Thomas Zane in the second game than we were of the diver in the first game, okay? So that's just another thing to kind of throw in. Bottom line, am I happy to see, like, a happy ending, I guess? Am I happy to see a happy ending? Yes, because I think Alan deserves it, and I think, like, it's cool. I can't, and I gotta be honest, like, this is my game of the year. This is my favorite game of the year. It's probably my favorite game in, like, 2, 3, 4 years. Really. So, me being maybe nitpicky, if people are going to call me that, I don't know. Like, you just have to remember how much I love this. This is one of my favorite games, really, of all time, okay? I just find it kind of odd that we went from such a... It wasn't, like, super dark, but obviously, like, there's so many unanswered questions, right, in the base ending. We go from that at the end of October, and then a month and a half later, we get, like, this super happy, straightforward ending where nobody really suffers. They all get out. The answers are given, I suppose, like, if that's how you want to describe it, right? And, like, that's it. And it's like you go from one extreme. That's really what they did. They went from one extreme to the other. And I think there's also something, as I joked about earlier, but I do think there's something to it. When you have convoluted games, sometimes when you kind of, like, cut straight to it, sometimes it does feel off and it doesn't exactly work. In Kingdom Hearts, I bring it up jokingly, but I think that's a really good example too. It's gotten so insane. If it got basic, would I even like it? There's a difference between me and everybody else. Maybe a lot of people would like it. Maybe a lot of people do like the ending to Alan Wake 2. I don't think I don't like it, but I think it's just a little odd, the choice that they made. But, as I keep saying, I think this point reigns supreme over whatever I feel. It doesn't really matter how I feel. The point is that I think is the top point. If this is it, then I think you needed something like this. I'm actually happy because if you leave it at the I keep pointing because it's over there on my monitor. If you leave it at the base ending and you never get a third game, or the third game comes 10 years from now, you have a long time to ponder that, and it may not even be worth it. At least now, if you never get a third game, or even if they maybe didn't plan to make it, maybe they don't want to. I don't think that's true, but let's just go with it, right? then you have somewhat of a definitive ending here. And technically, final point, you now have a very straightforward way of getting Alan out into the real world. He talks about having this knowledge, he carries that now, and he's the master of more than just two worlds. He's the master of many. And it's like, well, get him into Control. That's now where I'm at. Control 2, bring him in. He's out. Now you can connect the Dark Place with everything that she goes through. And I don't know, I feel like you can really now, the main hero that really is probably the most important to this connected universe that they've built, he's now kind of free to explore around and be in other things. He doesn't have to just be in his own games. Bring him in and continue to grow, I guess, not just the Dark Place, but now the entire universe. So those are my thoughts. You let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.